Hello, I'm Lynn Keddie and I like to paint expressively, and I make these videos so that I can show you the process that I go through to get an end result. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I painted this seascape. It's painted from a photograph and I take you through the stages that I go through to achieve an end result, whether it's successful or not. It goes from very simple lines to describe the picture as simply as possible, to really distill the key shapes as a starting point. And then it's about building up layers and also pausing at certain points to really leave the painting and understand what needs to be painted next. I use photography at these stages to help me to see the painting better, because with a photograph you do pick up on areas that aren't working. I don't know why that is, but it works really well. So this, oh, that's my dog, he's going mad. I think the postman's arrived. That's thrown my train of thought. So this painting I painted over 2 days and I really enjoyed it. And I think the key to painting well, painting expressively, is to really experiment and enjoy what you're doing. Explore different ideas, explore different techniques and different colour mixes and ways of applying paint. That's Beans, he wants in now. I'm going to have to let him in, hang on. Come on you. Here he is. Do you want to say hello, Beans? I don't know if you can see him. Do watch along. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you find it useful. Please, please do ask questions. I try and answer everybody's questions because I have spent years and years learning this stuff, and I learn as well from hearing what other people struggle with. Anyway, this was the painting as I decided to leave it, finish it. I may go back to it. I wasn't 100% happy with the sky. It looks better from a distance. Paintings look better from a distance, I think. But yeah, I've got some lovely passages in it that were very, very simple to do. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I hope if you use these techniques that I show you, you'll have a lot of fun too. Right, here goes. Oh, here's Beans. Let me show you. Here he is. Here's Beans. Oh, he's adorable. I love him. So I'm going to go with quite a limited palette today because there are lights and darks in the painting, but it is quite minimal in the amount of colour it has in it. We've got pale blues in the sky, so I've got ultramarine blue and cerulean blue. I've got titanium white, and I'm using titanium white, not mixing white, because I want to get that real bright light that's coming into this painting, both in the sky and in the reflections. And then I might add yellow ochre for the sand later, but at the moment I'm just using lemon yellow to get some of the light in the sky. I've got raw umber, which I'm going to mix with the ultramarine blue to get a very dark grey for the rocks. So I'm going to start off by just drawing in a few lines. I'm going to draw in the horizon. Whoops, that's a very wonky horizon. So that's sort of about, let's see, about a third up from the bottom. And the rock comes out, I'm going to draw this with the edge of the pencil very roughly, all the way across here, and then it sort of comes down here. So very simple mark, and then again we've got another bit coming in here, then we've got the sand which sort of goes like that, We've got another tiny bit of rock here, which I may or may not include. And then let's just draw in some of the shapes of the cloud, which goes up like that. And it's sort of a bit stormy almost. So it comes across like that. So we've got the sea here, which appears above the rock. So that's all I'm going to do. Just those lines. Very simple. I'm not going to fuss over it because you can get sort of too fussy and then you lose the sort of spontaneity of the painting. I should remember to put my microphone on, but I've actually lost it. Where is it? I must get myself a Wi-Fi microphone and then I won't have to keep on taking it off. Right, let's get going. What size brush? I've got a really, really big brush and quite a small piece of paper, but if I have this, I can get some paint down quite quickly, which is what I want to do. So I'm just going to wet the brush, dry it off with a bit of paper, and then I'm going to mix. I'm going to go with ultramarine and titanium white. There we go, quite light. And again, very quickly, just mix, just get that paint on. So I'm not really following the lines, and those lines are going to have to disappear at some point, aren't they? I like the fact there's a little bit of white that's just come through here. Now, straight away I'm going to mix up that raw umber with the ultramarine blue. I've got a little bit of white on my brush already, and I've got quite a lovely grey colour. Isn't that gorgeous? So I'm just going to start by putting that in here. As you can see, very rough marks. I may swap from this to a spatula or palette knife, I'm not sure. So I'm just going back to that blue. Maybe that's a bit too blue, and go put some more in. I'm going to go over what I've already done, so that I'm mixing the paints a little bit on the card. Actually, this is a piece of card that is made for painting on. It's not just a piece of card, although you could use a piece of card. You could just get some card and just gesso it a couple of times, and then you've got a perfectly decent bit of paper to work on. Now I'm just using, as you can see, the same brush. All I'm doing is mixing different colours for the sky, and I'm just going to keep on working into it really. So I'm going to get some more of this lovely grey, I'm going to lighten it a bit with the white, and I'm going to put it back into the sky. So I'm just playing around with this now, and it's starting to dry, but that's okay. And then you can just do some funny things like dragging the brush along in different ways, see what that does. I want to get a bit more white in. I'm not going to use pure white, so I've got mixing that in with the paint on the brush to get some, they look a bit grey, and I don't think we've got very grey clouds here, so let's get some. So keeping it really light. Now we've got this big, I've actually lost the shape completely, as you can probably see that I have. So I'm going to try and get that back in, because that is quite an important shape going on there that I want to keep in. So you can see I'm just going over what I've just painted, and there's absolutely no problem with that, because what you're doing is you're just adding more layers and it's making it more interesting. I've got to make sure that I get to the edge because my palette is just there. Okay, let's get some really bright white. Now this is where the sun is coming through. I don't know how easy this is going to be. probably not that easy at all. Tiniest bit of yellow. I'm going to actually use a different brush because I want this to be quite clean, and that hasn't come out very white, and I just want this really bright patch coming here, and it's actually surrounded, if you see, by grey, and I've sort of lost that, so let's get that back again. A little bit of grey. Here. This might, whoops, going a little bit crazy here. I'm just, sometimes when I'm talking I find it really difficult to paint. So you just kind of, it's a lot easier not talking when you're painting, let me tell you that. So I've got just white on this brush, and I'm going to get a bit of lemon yellow. That's too much. I want it just a touch of yellow. That might even be too much, you know. Let's see. We've got this sort of edge to it. No, I don't know if it is enough actually. We might have to go back over that. That's not terribly successful, but let's just. Doesn't really look like it, does it? It doesn't look like sun. That's the problem. Let's try a different brush. If in doubt, blame your equipment. Oh dear. Right. That isn't looking great. We can come back to that. I'm not going to fuss over it because if I do, it'll annoy me. So I'm going to paint the sea in now, and it's quite a dark colour. So I'm going to try a tiny bit of the umber. I think that's dark enough. That's a sort of an interesting colour at any rate. Now, I want a straight horizon, and I couldn't draw a straight horizon, so I'm going to do it with this rather handy painter's, I'm not sure what you call it actually. I never know what this is called. Painter's straight edge or something. I want it to be darker. Don't think it's dark enough. Or at least have some more dark in here. So very roughly, that sort of work. Let's see if it's straight or a wonky horizon. No, that looks pretty straight. Okay, so I've got some sea, and I want to get some, there's sort of waves going on here. So let's get that in, as I'm going to use this again. Let's see how that, and very, very quickly, just painting that in, like that. Well, I'm very pleased with that, not so pleased with the sky, but we can come back to that. Now, we've got different shades of blue coming in here, so I'm just going to have that coming like that, and it's going lighter, so let's just paint that in, and then we've got even lighter coming in here, down to here, so that's rock, so that's water, and I quite like the looseness of that. Let's get some paint there. I've got 3 brushes on the go, but I'm going to get another one. What I want, I think I want, again, right, so we want no white in this at all to make this lovely dark grey. I just love the way those two colours make such a gorgeous sort of dark grey rock colour, and I'm holding the brush really roughly, and I'm just going to paint this in really, really roughly. I'm going to have to make some more. Doesn't matter if it doesn't come out quite the same colour, because that adds to the interest in it. That's a little bit too brown. That's probably going to be too blue. No, is that, no, that's okay. That's okay. So let's get some more colour. And this is going on really thickly, and the reason for that is these rocks are quite gnarly. And we want a bit coming in here. And then just 2 dots, funny things going there. We'll tidy that up a bit, I think. And again, let's just get some lovely thick paint. Didn't make up enough, so I have to make up some more. So that's, and I like the fact that it's, some of it's sort of blue, some of it's more grey. We've got something going on here. Something going on here. And then, and this is where I need my yellow ochre, so bear with me. Should you know I've run out of yellow ochre, I've just remembered. So I'm going to use raw sienna, which is a sort of browny colour. And it is quite dark, so I'm going to, this is the sand here, so I'm just going to put a bit of the grey in. So I'm using the same brush that I had the grey with, and I'm going to take a little bit of, is that too much? A little bit of white. I want it to be a tiny bit more yellow than that. That looks too brown. To get this sort of sandy effect, that may be a bit too. So I'm just really roughly painting this in. Goes like that. Now this is quite a smooth line, and I've got a really wonky line, so let's just get that sorted out. I think that's a bit too orangey actually, that brown. Yellow ochre would have been much better, but we'll just have to make do with this for now. Okay, so let's get a much smoother line going on here. That's better. I think that's too, right, so I think that's too, I think it should come up to here. I think that's too much up there, so I'm going to just let that dry and paint over it, but I'm actually going to take some of it off with this and then see if it's drying quite quickly, you see. Just make that a bit small. I've got, sometimes it's good to have more patience than I have, I think. I've done it again. Remarkable. Right, we will have to fiddle around with that, I think. That goes like that. Okay, so we've got an overall feel for this, but I don't think it's anywhere near finished. So now that this sky's dried, I'm going to go back in, and I think I'm going to take a spatula and see if I can make that work better with a. I do like using, as you probably know, if you watch me at all, you'll know I love using spatulas. And this is a kitchen spatula. I don't always use kitchen spatula, but I do like it. And I like the marks that you can get. They're very, you just get some really interesting marks already. See, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And then let's try and keep that lovely sky. Let's have some grey up in here. Whoops. Holding it still. And some more white coming in here. We've got a funny bit of grey just popping up there I don't like. That's actually too big, isn't it? A great lump of cloud I've got there. Let's get some grey again. Slightly darker grey, that's good. That's not, whoops, that's too dark. Far too dark. There we go, get rid of that. That's better because now we're seeing this bit of cloud much better, but we want some of this lovely white, pink, whitey yellow, I think, up here. Now I'm not following the colours exactly and the shapes exactly. I'm just getting some feeling of sky in here. There we go. And there are funny bits of blue in here that I don't want, so let's get rid of those. I've lost a little bit of my horizon, so let's get that back in. Blue needs to be quite dark. Let's try and get that back in. There we go. Okay. I'm pretty pleased with how it's going so far. Let's get some more white, really light white in here. I'm going to use this again. It's like they're waves, and I want it just above those rocks, like that. Okay, let's go back to the sea here. Just paint over the, I think that means it needs to be much lighter, much lighter. So let's go in with there we go, that's better. Let's wash that brush out. And this time I'm going to go with my palette knife, my spatula, really, and going again with some nice dark greys. I've got a little bit of white in that, and I don't know if that's going to work as well, but this is just changing it a little bit. Let's go over here. I'm running out of space. There we go. A little bit too brown, I think. And there's quite a lot of texture in this. Let's get some variation in how it's appearing next to the water. And here too. Not entirely sure what that is actually. I don't even know if it's a rock. Can't really see. And again, just, whoops, As you can see, we're sort of building up levels now. Levels? No, layers. With the paint, and it just makes it so much more interesting to look at. That looks quite like a sort of a reflection. That's much better now. It's not so obvious, is it? It was a bit too obvious before. I may just put that up there. Quite like the way that's just a bit as though water's flowing over that. And then we want in here just some white for a little rock pool. So let's get that in. Let's get some rock pools in. Okay. So that's sort of 2 layers of paint that we've got on there, and I'm quite happy with that. It's a sort of a, whoops, you didn't see all of that down that side. I'm quite happy with that because it's fairly simple. I may go back into it and just tidy up a few things once I've left it. I like to always leave a painting, photograph it, come back to it and see if there's anything that I need to do. I may work on that a little bit. I may put a little bit more of a lighter colour in here, but I need to leave it for a bit and just take a fresh look at it. And photographing it always works, so do try photographing your work and then look at it in a photograph. You can see things that you just can't see in real life. Weird that, I don't know why that is, but it's absolutely true. So it's been 24 hours since I've worked on this painting, and straight away when I photographed it and compared it to what I was looking at, I could see immediately that the thing that's missing is the light. And you know, I was struggling with the sky, and I think you can see quite clearly that the brightness of the sun reflected in the water. I just haven't even got that in the water. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, am I going to take a brush or am I going to take let's take this palette knife and just do a few small adjustments. I've got to be careful. If I mix yellow and there's a bit of blue, I'm going to get green, and I don't want green at all. So I'm just going to take a tiny, tiny bit of yellow just to change it from the sort of bright titanium white. There's a reflection of water here, which is just coming in like that, and there's quite an obvious reflection of water here. There. And this needs to be whiter there. And we've got the nice brights there. And what I've also decided is that if I darken this cloud here, maybe that's just a bit too dark. You'll get more. Sorry, I'm going to have to move this because I can't get that spatula around there, and you'll just get more of a contrast, and it becomes a little bit more exciting. Right, let's move that back. I want to obvious lines. It's got to look like clouds. And down here, I'm going to just get some bright white in here and a little bit around there. I'm going to make this lighter just with a brush. Take it all the way to the edge. And I think I'm going to make this a little bit darker actually. So let's clean that off and get some grey into that. It's not much darker, but it's just a little bit darker. And maybe a tiny bit lighter just here. And then the thing about the photograph, of course, is that sun, the light in the photograph is it's a huge highlight, and it's actually burnt out any pixels, if you like, in the photograph. So we're never going to get it quite as dramatic, I don't think, as the photograph. But I do want to just, there we go, want to just try and get some of that lightness in, and maybe up here too. At the edges of the cloud as well. It's quite dark here, so I'm going to leave that as quite dark. I think I might use a, whoops, that had sand on it, so I just want to get quite a smooth feel with this paint here. And I'm going to go back to this painter's edge and just probably need a bigger brush. Where are we, bigger brush? Let's use this one. Whoops, drop that on my painting just to smooth that out a bit. Doesn't have to be perfectly smooth, but it's quite a bit darker, but that's okay. Okay, so we've got this little sliver of light here, and I'm going to get a bit of light there, and a bit of brighter light there, and then let's do those rock pools again. And the interesting thing about the actual rocks is that there's more detail which I kind of missed. So I'm going to mix up some more of that colour. I've got too much white on there. Let's start again. I need some more raw umber. And what I might do actually is use one of these flat palette knives this time and find a little spot on my palette, mix up some of that lovely grey, more blue in that, because we don't want it to be brown. It's a bit brown. That looks about right. So I'm just going to, with this, I'm going to just have more texture. Change the lines. And I'm going to have slightly different shades of grey to represent the light that's sort of reflecting off these rocks, which we didn't really get in that last pass. And again, have a slightly lighter colour going, maybe that's a bit too light. Into the distance. So I'm not copying what I'm seeing, but I am just making it look nice and rugged and gnarly, and just bringing in a little bit more white paint. I quite like that bit there, I like that bit there, maybe a little bit more of that reflection, maybe extend that over there so it is actually over the reflection, which I haven't done. Let's move that over here a bit. Now, the other thing I noticed was some kind of sand built up around here, which I missed in the original thing. It's sort of a grey brown, so I'm mixing some of the grey with that rumba, and I'm just going to do that, which kind of represents what I'm seeing. And then I think I might just add a little bit of that around here. And the reason for that is it just makes it feel like you are. That is the edge of the sand, a little bit of sand that you often see in the water's edge here. And I'm just going to also, whoops, that's quite interesting. Quite like that actually. So that's got quite a lighter feel to it, which I'm just going to sort of dot through because it's giving it kind of more texture, which I like. I'm not sure about that little blob there. It's funny, you just see these things and get rid of them quite easily. Okay, well, it was an interesting exercise. I don't know if I'm 100% satisfied with it. You know, I might think that maybe the sky isn't quite what I wanted. Maybe that's just a bit on the dark side. Whoops, using my finger. But maybe from a distance, if you look at things from a distance, they look completely different. I'm quite pleased with how this has worked out. Less so maybe with the sky, to be honest. There's a funny little mark here. I don't think you'd ever see that. Maybe you would. I don't know. Use my fingers just to smooth it out a little bit. So, whoops. So I'm going to leave this now. It's been really interesting painting it. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you've learned from this, as I have, because I think every time you pick up a paintbrush, you just learn more, and you learn different techniques of painting, and not really expecting a perfectly finished product, because quite often it doesn't happen, as you can see today. I mean, I think this is quite a nice piece. Even as I look at it now, I can see things that are just not quite right. There's a funny little mark there that I don't particularly like, so I'll fiddle around with that a bit. But that's fine. That's the fun of painting. If you don't experiment, then you never ever learn anything new, and you've got to be prepared to take risks. You just have, because again, you'll never learn anything new. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. And the reason it doesn't matter is that this is acrylic paint, and acrylic paint dries very quickly, and you can paint over the things that aren't working. And if you get really stuck, as you do sometimes, let's look at me, I'm fiddling around with it all the time, you can just put it away and bring it out a few months later, and you'll find that you'll be able to go back into it and work on it some more. But if you're happy with it, then happy days. So if you like this video, please do subscribe and hit the bell so that you don't miss any more. Tell your friends about it and see if they want to join in our little tribe of happy painters. And yeah, I'll see you again soon. So bye for now. This is the first pass after day 1, and this is the final painting.